The morning bell rang across the quiet campus of Northfield University. Students rushed through the hallways, their laughter echoing against the tall glass walls. Inside the large mathematics building, Professor Harris prepared for his next lecture. He was known for his pride and his arrogance. To him, intelligence was a privilege reserved for the few who could afford it. Down the same hallway, an old woman pushed her cleaning cart. Her name was Mrs. Clara. She had worked as a janitor there for more than 10 years. Every morning she swept the same halls, cleaned the same rooms, and listened silently while students and teachers passed by without even noticing her. But what no one knew was that every night, when the halls were empty, Clara stayed a little longer. She would stand by the chalkboard in the math department and read the strange symbols written on it. She couldn't explain why, but the numbers spoke to her. The equations were like music in her mind. Patterns, rhythms, answers waiting to be found. That day, Professor Harris was preparing a new challenge for his top students. It was a complex equation, one that even the university's brightest minds couldn't solve. "Let's see who can at least try to understand it," he said with a grin. His students laughed nervously. None dared to come near the board. Clara entered the classroom quietly, broom in hand. She thought she'd wait until the lecture was done before cleaning. But as she watched the professor write, something in her eyes changed. The pattern on the board wasn't just numbers, it was something deeper. It reminded her of something from long ago, something she had once seen but could never explain. Professor Harris noticed her standing there. "Ah, Mrs. Clara," he said with a smirk. "Do you understand what this is?" The students chuckled. Clara smiled kindly. "Just cleaning, sir." "Didn't mean to interrupt." "Oh, don't be shy," Harris said loudly, enjoying the attention. "Perhaps you'd like to solve it for us?" The students laughed. One boy whispered, "She doesn't even know algebra." Clara didn't reply. She simply looked at the board once more, her eyes scanning the numbers like she was reading a familiar book. Something stirred in her memory, a flash of a time when she wasn't just a janitor, when she had worked in a hidden lab far from Earth. For a moment, she froze. The air around her felt heavy, almost alive. The lights flickered. The students looked around, confused. Clara blinked and smiled again, shaking her head. "No, sir. I just see patterns." "Patterns?" The professor laughed. "That's what my computer said before it crashed trying to solve this equation." The students burst into laughter. Clara bowed her head and left the room, broom in hand. But behind her soft smile, her thoughts were racing. The numbers on that board were not random. They were coordinates, a message hidden in mathematical form. That night, after everyone had gone, Clara returned. The moonlight fell through the large windows, painting the floor silver. She picked up a piece of chalk and began to write. Her movements were fast, smooth, confident, not the shaky hand of an old janitor. Symbols formed, connected, and unfolded like living code. As she worked, the equation on the board started to glow faintly. A soft hum filled the air, like a whisper from another world. Clara stepped back and took a deep breath. "It's starting again," she murmured. At that same moment, deep beneath the university, sensors flickered to life in a sealed laboratory that had been abandoned for decades. Hidden computers started running old data. Across the city, satellites picked up faint signals, patterns of unknown origin. The next morning, Professor Harris arrived early. He stopped dead when he saw the chalkboard. His impossible equation was solved, perfectly. The lines were clean, logical, beautiful. He stared at it, unable to believe what he was seeing. "Who did this?" he whispered. "No student could have done it. Not even he could." Just then, Clara walked in with her broom, humming softly. Harris turned to her, still in shock. "Mrs. Clara." "Did you?" But before he could finish, a strange sound echoed through the room, a low hum that seemed to come from the board itself. The equations pulsed with faint blue light, The students who had just arrived gasped. Clara looked at the glowing symbols and whispered, "It's not just math. It's a key." No one understood what she meant, but at that moment, everyone could feel it. Something had been unlocked. The so-called janitor wasn't who they thought she was. And the equation was far more than a classroom challenge. It was a message from a war long forgotten and about to begin again. Professor Harris stood frozen in front of the chalkboard. The equation that no one could solve was glowing faintly, each symbol shining like a star. The soft blue light moved through the shapes like it was alive. The students backed away, whispering nervously. "What's happening?" One of them said. "Is this a trick?" Clara placed her broom against the wall and walked closer. Her calmness was strange, like she had seen this before. She touched the chalkboard lightly, and the glow stopped. The room fell silent again. "It's okay," she said softly. "It won't hurt anyone." Professor Harris swallowed hard. You did this, didn't you?" he asked. Clara looked at him with kind eyes. "I only followed the pattern," she said. "But how?" he asked again, his voice trembling. "That equation is based on quantum calculus mixed with gravitational mapping. Even I can't understand it completely." Clara smiled faintly. "Sometimes understanding doesn't come from books. Sometimes it comes from memory." The professor blinked. "Memory? What are you talking about?" Clara turned back to the board. "These numbers," she said, pointing to a line, "they are not just math. They are coordinates. And they're moving." "Moving?" a student repeated. Clara nodded. "It means something is sending a signal." The professor frowned. "That's impossible. This is a closed equation." Before he could finish, the lights in the classroom flickered again. The projector on the wall turned on by itself, showing a strange, spinning pattern, the same one that matched Clara's equations. The students gasped. The pattern looked like a map of the stars, but some stars blinked and changed positions. Clara stared at it quietly. "It's them," she whispered. "Them?" the professor asked. Clara turned slowly to face him. "A long time ago," she began, "before I was a janitor, I worked in a place that didn't exist on any map. We studied signals from deep space, strange codes hidden in math and radio waves. We thought it was just cosmic noise, until one day it replied." The class was silent. Even the professor forgot to breathe. "What replied?" a girl finally asked. Clara looked down. "Something that wasn't human." The projector suddenly shifted again. The glowing pattern on the screen rearranged itself into a strange shape, a spiral, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. Then a voice, mechanical, deep, and distant, echoed through the speakers that it spoke in a language no one could understand. The students screamed and covered their ears. The professor ran to the computer to turn it off, but it wouldn't respond. The room was filled with the low hum of the alien voice. Clara raised her hand, and the sound stopped instantly. The projector turned off. Everyone stared at her. "Mrs. Clara," Professor Harris said, his voice shaking. "Who are you?" Clara took a slow breath. "I was part of Project Helios," she said. "We searched for intelligent life outside our solar system. But when we found it, the government shut us down. They said it was too dangerous. The signals we received carried more than just sound. They carried knowledge." "Knowledge?" the professor asked. Clara nodded. "Equations. The kind of math that could bend reality. We were warned never to decode them again. But now, after all these years, the signal has returned." Professor Harris took a step back, his pride replaced by fear. "You mean this whole thing was never a joke?" Clara looked around the classroom. The students were watching her with wide eyes, half fear, half amazement. "No," she said softly. "It was a warning." Outside, thunder rolled through the cloudy sky. The ground trembled slightly, almost like something huge had moved far beneath the earth. The professor grabbed his phone. "We need to report this. The science department, the government, someone." Clara stopped him. "No, if they find out, they'll come for it. And for me." He looked at her confused. "Why you?" "Because I'm the only one who can finish the code," she said. "And if I do, they'll know where we are." The professor's eyes widened. "Who will?" Clara looked out the window at the stormy sky. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The ones who sent the signal." The room fell silent again. The hum from the chalkboard faded, leaving only the sound of rain tapping against the glass. The students didn't move. They felt it. Something had changed. The world outside wasn't as normal as it seemed. Clara picked up her broom again, her hands trembling slightly. "Class is over," she said softly. "Go home. Forget what you saw." But deep down, everyone knew they would never forget. Professor Harris stayed behind. He watched as Clara walked down the hall, her blue uniform fading into the shadows. For the first time, he realized she wasn't just a janitor. She was something else. Something far greater. He turned back toward the board. The glowing numbers had disappeared, but one new line was written in chalk. In Clara's handwriting. It said, "They are coming." The next morning, the university campus was filled with quiet tension. Students whispered about what they had seen in Professor Harris's class, the glowing board, the strange signal, and the janitor who somehow knew how to control it. Some thought it was a prank. Others believed it was real. But one thing was certain: Mrs. Clara was missing. Her cleaning cart stood near the same hallway, untouched since the night before. The broom leaned against the wall like she had just stepped away for a moment. But she never came back. Professor Harris hadn't slept all night. He kept replaying everything in his mind. The equation, the light, her words. "They are coming." He sat in his office, staring at the chalkboard photo he had taken before it vanished. The numbers didn't make sense. But the pattern was moving, shifting. Like it was alive. A knock came at the door. It was a young student named Mia. She was one of the brightest in his class, curious and fearless. "Professor," she said, "you need to see this." She handed him her tablet. On the screen was a live map of radio frequencies. A strange new signal had appeared overnight, same pattern as Clara's equation, but now spreading across the globe. Harris frowned. Where did this come from? Mia hesitated. NASA released it by mistake. They detected it coming from outside Earth's orbit. Heading here. The professor's face turned pale. Heading here? Mia nodded. Yes, and there's more. The signal responds when someone writes the same formula Clara used. He stared at her. You mean if someone writes the equation, the signal changes? She nodded again. Like it's watching. For a long moment, the professor said nothing. Then he stood up and whispered, "Find Clara." Far from the university, Clara was walking down an empty country road. She had left everything behind, her job, her name, her safety. But she knew running wouldn't help for long. The sky above her flickered with strange blue lights, like lightning without sound. She knew what that meant. The signal wasn't just data, it was a doorway. She stopped by an old barn and went inside. Hidden beneath the floor was a small metallic box, old and dusty. She pressed her hand on it, and it clicked open. Inside was a small silver device glowing faintly, a communication beacon from another world. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Helios Unit 7, transmitting emergency signal. They found us. The device responded with a soft hum. A projection appeared, a holographic figure made of light. It looked human, but its eyes shone like twin stars. Clara, the voice said calmly. You were told to stay hidden. I know, she replied. But they sent the equation again. Someone triggered the key. The figure tilted its head. Then the boundary is weakening. The war is not over. Clara sighed. I hoped it was. The projection flickered. They will come for you, Clara, both sides. Humans and them. You must finish the equation before they do. Clara nodded slowly. I understand. The projection faded. She stood alone again, holding the device close to her chest. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to go back, she whispered. Not again. Back at the university, Professor Harris and Mia were searching every record they could find. But there was no trace of Mrs. Clara in the staff files. No address, no ID, nothing. It was as if she never existed. Mia bit her lip. Professor, what if she wasn't really one of us? Harris looked at her sharply. What do you mean? She pointed at the signal graph. This code, it's not human math. The variables move in ways that shouldn't be possible. Maybe she didn't just study the signal. Maybe she was part of it. Before he could reply, the lights went out. The monitors flickered with static. A voice, soft but mechanical, whispered through the speakers. Equation received. Authorization confirmed. The projector turned on by itself again, showing Clara's face. But it wasn't her. It was a recording. If you're seeing this, the hologram said, they've found you. The equation is a key. It unlocks their path here. You must destroy it before the final code completes. Then the screen went dark. Mia whispered, Professor, what does she mean they've found us? Before he could answer, the ground shook violently. Outside, students screamed. Through the window, they saw a dark shadow in the sky, like a tear opening in the clouds. Blue light burst out, spreading across the horizon. Professor Harris's heart pounded. It's starting, he said. He turned to Mia, eyes wide. We have to find her before they do. Meanwhile, far away, Clara stood on a hill, watching the same blue light spread across the sky. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the storm above. She whispered to herself, So, they finally heard us. Then she turned, holding the small beacon in her hand, and disappeared into the forest, leaving behind the old world that no longer understood who she truly was. The city was in chaos. Sirens screamed in every direction as blue light covered the sky like a storm of energy. People stopped in the streets, staring upward in disbelief. The clouds were twisting, bending like something massive was pushing through from the other side. At the university, Professor Harris and Mia ran to the roof. From there, they could see it clearly, a glowing ring forming high above the clouds. Lightning circled it, but this lightning wasn't natural. It moved in perfect geometric patterns, shaping symbols that looked almost like numbers. Mia whispered, It's the equation. Professor Harris nodded slowly. The equation opened it. Just then, a massive wave of static hit every phone, every screen, every radio. All of them showed one message in glowing blue letters: mathematical access granted. Harris turned pale. They've connected. Who? Mia asked. He looked at the sky. Whoever sent that signal. Far from the city, Clara moved through the forest, her blue janitor uniform torn and dirty. In her hand, she held the small silver beacon, its glow pulsing faster with every second. The trees shook as strange sounds echoed from the sky, deep, mechanical and alien. She reached a clearing where an old satellite dish stood half buried in moss and rust. She brushed away the dirt and touched its cold metal surface. The beacon glowed brighter, sending a beam straight into the sky. Come on, she whispered. I need to reach the others before it's too late. The dish hummed to life, pieces of it moving like waking machines. Sparks of blue light danced across the metal, and for a brief moment, Clara's reflection in the glow didn't look completely human. Her eyes shone with faint silver lines, and her skin rippled with light, as if her body was remembering something it had hidden for too long. Back at the university, Mia was trying to contact someone for help, but every signal was jammed. All networks are down, she said. No phone, no internet, nothing. Professor Harris grabbed his jacket. We can't stay here. The signal started from this campus. They'll come here first. Who will? He hesitated. Not human ones. They ran outside as the air began to vibrate. A massive object was breaking through the clouds, like a ship made of light and shadow. It moved silently, its shape constantly changing. Shifting like liquid metal, people were running, screaming, filming with their phones, until the devices all went dark at once. The ship hovered over the campus for a few seconds. Then, a column of blue light descended and hit the ground gently. Out of it stepped 3 tall figures, humanoid but not human, their skin pale silver, their eyes glowing faint blue. They moved with quiet grace, scanning everything around them. Mia froze. What are they? Professor Harris whispered. Mathematic constructs. They use equations to shape their technology. They're pure logic given form. The aliens turned their heads toward the math building. They're looking for the one who solved the equation. Harris said. Clara, Mia breathed out in the forest. Clara fell to her knees beside the beacon. She could feel them arriving. The ground vibrated beneath her palms, and memories flooded back. The laboratory, the experiment, the explosion that sent her to Earth years ago. She wasn't born here. She had been sent here, hidden in human form, to guard the equation until the universe was ready again. She opened her eyes. They glowed bright silver now. No more hiding. She pressed a sequence on the beacon. It emitted a soft chime, and a new voice answered, calm and deep. Helios command online. Unit 7 recognized. Clara smiled weakly. We don't have much time. The signal has reached Earth. The constructs are here. We see them, the voice replied. Do you still hold the final code? Yes, she said quietly. But if I release it, both sides will come. Humanity isn't ready for that. Then you must make them ready. The beacon's light faded. Clara stood slowly. Above the forest, she could see the alien ship's lights spreading like veins of energy. The air shimmered as drones began scanning the ground. She whispered to herself, I will protect them, even if they don't understand. Back in the city, chaos grew worse. The alien figures were walking through the streets now, scanning buildings, machines, and people, searching for the one who held the code. Mia and Professor Harris hid behind a car. We have to find Clara before they do, Mia said. Harris nodded. She's the only one who can stop this. They drove out of the city, following faint coordinates left in the university's old archives. Coordinates Clara once wrote in her cleaning notebook. It led them toward the forest. As they drove, Mia looked up. Professor, she said, what if she's not just a janitor or a scientist? What if she's one of them? Harris gripped the wheel tightly. Then God help us all. When they reached the edge of the forest, the sky above was glowing. They saw Clara standing in the clearing, the beacon shining like a small star in her hands. Around her, invisible energy rippled through the air, forming a protective barrier of light. The alien ship hovered above, its engines humming like a living heartbeat. Clara looked up at it calmly. Her voice was steady. You shouldn't have come here. A beam of blue light descended. A tall alien stepped out, its form sleek and metallic, its voice echoing in harmonic tones. Unit 7, it said. You broke the pact. The equation belongs to us. Clara's eyes narrowed. The equation belongs to no one. It's the language of creation itself. The alien's face shifted slightly, its tone turning cold. Then humanity will pay for your defiance. The ground shook. Trees bent under invisible pressure. Clara lifted her hand, and the beacon pulsed, sending out a shockwave that pushed the aliens back. From a distance, Professor Harris and Mia watched, speechless. What is she doing? Mia asked. Harris whispered. She's fighting them. With math. The air lit up with blue energy as symbols appeared around Clara, floating equations glowing in midair, spinning and forming shields of light. The war that no one understood had begun, right there. On Earth, the sky above the forest burned with blue light. Symbols floated in the air like glowing stars, spinning around Clara as if she stood in the center of a living galaxy. Each equation pulsed with energy. Every number meant power. The alien construct stood a few meters away, tall and calm, its voice echoing like metal wind. "You cannot win, Unit 7, it said. You were built to calculate, not to resist." Clara's eyes glowed silver. "I was built to protect," she answered softly. "And that's exactly what I'll do." She moved her hand through the air, tracing invisible lines. The equations around her shifted, rearranging like puzzle pieces. The moment she finished the sequence, a surge of bright white energy exploded outward. Trees bent, the ground cracked, and the alien was thrown back into the beam of its own ship. From the hill, Professor Harris and Mia watched in disbelief. Mia whispered, "She's not fighting with weapons. She's fighting with math." Harris nodded. "She's using formulas to change gravity. She's rewriting the laws of physics." The alien ship roared above them. Dozens of blue lights descended from its small drones, scanning the forest. One spotted Harris and Mia and fired a thin beam of light. They dove behind a rock as the ground beside them turned to glass. "We have to help her." Mia shouted, "How?" Harris asked. "We don't even understand what she's doing." Mia looked at the laptop she had brought. It was still connected to the signal from the university. "Maybe we can amplify her code," she said. "If we feed her equation back through the beacon, she'll have more power." Harris stared at her for a second, then nodded. "Do it." Clara was breathing hard now. The air around her shimmered like heat. The alien construct rose again, unharmed. Its voice was calm but sharper. "You delay the inevitable. The equation belongs to the origin. Give it to us or Earth will fall with you." Clara's expression hardened. "You forget something," she said. "Humans are not predictable. They make mistakes and that's what makes them powerful." The construct tilted its head. "Illogical." Clara smiled sadly. "Exactly." She lifted both hands. Symbols burst out from the ground, spinning faster and faster, forming a giant circle around her. It looked like a portal, but it wasn't. It was a wall of pure calculation, locking space and time. At the same time, the laptop near Mia beeped. "Signal ready," she said. "I'm sending her the boost." A pulse of data shot from the computer into the beacon's light. The glow around Clara flared, turning white gold. The alien stopped moving. Unauthorized pattern detected. Termination protocol engaged. Energy bolts shot toward her, but they froze midair, trapped in the equations like insects in glass. Then they reversed, slamming back into the ship. The explosion shook the forest. Harris and Mia covered their ears as thunder rolled across the valley. When the smoke cleared, the alien ship was still there, but damaged. Its smooth metal surface had cracks of light spreading through it like broken glass. Clara fell to one knee, exhausted. Her hands trembled. "It's not enough," she whispered. "They'll send more." Mia and Harris ran to her. "Clara!" Mia shouted. "We sent the signal back. Did it work?" Clara opened her eyes weakly. "For now," she said. "But they will adapt. They always do." Harris knelt beside her. "Who are they really?" Clara looked up at him. "We called them the Origin. They're ancient intelligences made of pure logic. Long ago, they tried to rewrite the universe into perfect order. No emotion, no freedom, only balance." Mia frowned. "And you were part of them?" Clara nodded slowly. "Yes, I was built to calculate the final formula, the one that could erase chaos completely. But when I saw what that meant, I refused." I destroyed the project and escaped here." She looked at the sky where new lights were beginning to form. They never forgot. The equation is the key to open this world. If they get it back, Earth becomes part of their order forever. Harris stood up. "Then we have to stop them." "But how?" Clara glanced at the beacon. "There's only one way to finish the equation before they do. Once it's complete, I can seal the breach. But it will cost everything I am." Mia shook her head. "No, there has to be another way." Clara smiled softly. "You humans always say that. That's what I like about you." Another rumble filled the air. More ships were appearing, forming a ring above the planet. Harris turned pale. "That's not just one army." Clara stood again, light forming around her body like armor. "It's the whole fleet." She looked at the two humans one last time. "Protect each other. And if I don't come back, tell them I wasn't a janitor. Tell them I tried to save their world." Before they could answer, she rose slowly into the air, surrounded by spirals of glowing equations. The ground split open beneath her, sending waves of light through the forest. The sky itself seemed to bend as the first blast from the alien fleet struck. Mia screamed, "Clara!" But Clara's voice echoed through the wind, calm and fearless. "The final code begins now." The night sky had turned white. The air was alive with light, thunder, and sound that felt like the world itself was breaking apart. Dozens of alien ships circled the Earth, glowing like silver moons, each one charging weapons that could end everything in seconds. In the middle of the chaos, Clara floated high above the ground, surrounded by millions of glowing symbols. They formed circles within circles, like a living galaxy made of pure numbers. Her eyes shone bright silver, her body covered in thin lines of light that looked like stars flowing under her skin. Below her, Professor Harris and Mia stood near the cracked beacon, shielding their eyes. "Clara!" Mia shouted through the storm. "You can't do this alone." But Clara's voice echoed like wind through metal. "It must be me. The code began with me. It must end with me." The ships above her fired again. Bolts of white-blue plasma fell like rain. Each one hit the light field around her and dissolved instantly, as if the universe itself had rejected their attack. Inside the ships, the alien voices spoke in perfect unison. "Unit 7, you are error. Your defiance threatens order. Surrender the final equation." Clara looked up, calm and sad. "Order without freedom isn't peace," she said softly. "It's silence." She moved her hands slowly. The symbols around her started changing, reversing, folding, connecting. Each line glowed brighter until the whole sky became a massive equation. It stretched from horizon to horizon, a network of light too complex for any human eye to fully understand. Harris watched, stunned. "She's rewriting physics," he whispered. "She's changing how reality itself behaves." Mia gripped his arm. "But if she finishes it, will she survive?" He didn't answer. The look on his face said everything. The alien fleet fired again, hundreds of beams converging on one single point. Clara. The impact was blinding. For a moment, everything went white. The forest, the sky, even the stars disappeared. Then, from that white silence, came Clara's voice, steady and human. "Access final constant. Emotional variable. Compassion." The equations pulsed, alive with color, now blue, red, gold. Each symbol flickered like a heartbeat. The alien voice roared, "Emotion is corruption. You cannot mix chaos with perfection." Clara whispered, "That's why you'll never understand humans." The equation spun faster and faster, forming a spiral that reached far into space. The ships around her froze midair, their engines stalling. One by one, they began to break apart, not from explosion, but from disassembly. Molecule by molecule, they dissolved into glowing dust. Down below, the forest was shaking. Mia fell to her knees, holding her head. What's happening? The laws are changing, Harris said, watching the light fade. She's sealing the breach. Then, everything went still. The light that had covered the sky began to collapse inward, shrinking until it was only a small glowing or bright where Clara had been. For a second, Harris thought he saw her silhouette inside the light, smiling faintly, and then it was gone. Only silence remained. Hours later, the world was calm again. The forest still stood, though half the trees were scorched. The alien fleet was gone, every trace of them erased from the sky. Mia and Harris walked toward the center of the clearing. The ground was blackened, and at the center of it lay a single object, Clara's old janitor badge. Glowing faintly, Mia picked it up and whispered, "She really did it." Harris nodded slowly. She completed the equation. She saved us. He looked up at the dawn sky, where soft sunlight was breaking through the clouds. "They'll never know who she was," he said quietly. "They'll only remember the light that saved them." Mia smiled sadly. "Then maybe that's enough." As the wind carried away the last bits of glowing dust, a gentle voice echoed faintly through the air, like a memory woven into the wind. "Don't stop learning. Don't stop feeling. That's what makes you human." Mia looked around in awe. Clara? But there was no one there, only the warmth of the morning sun rising over a world that had almost ended. And somewhere, deep in the stars, a new light flickered, gentle, steady. "Alive." The universe whispered back,